Eliot, Clough, and Sean Bock here on Swarmcast on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, here to preview the Iowa-Nebraska game on Black Friday in Lincoln. David Eichholt and I will be there to cover Hawkeyes versus Huskers. But first, Sean, looking at this contest, you have your preview. I have my three focal points. What's maybe one or two things that stick out to you most about this matchup between Iowa and Nebraska? Heated rivalry for the Heroes Trophy.
Yeah, I mean it's not really it kind of is the game I think that people expected. It's not really for anything. I think a lot of people thought, okay, maybe, or a couple like certain groups of people thought, okay, maybe this game could be a determining factor for one of these teams with the college football playoff, because I know every year there's that Nebraska hype. Iowa had some hype coming into this year. But that's not the case. Both teams are 7, right? Both teams are 7 and or what 7-4. Both teams are 7-4 going into this game. Nothing really to play for besides a trip to the ReliaQuest Bowl or Las Vegas Bowl or something along those lines. But hey, man, like it's still a like this game is still very important, or feels very important from an Iowa standpoint. I know there's been a couple of people who have written things about, yeah, like this game isn't really a rivalry as much, or this game is, it doesn't really mean much. It like is more of a fan thing. I think Mike Clough wrote something like that, and I get where he's coming from. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think that the fan bases really drive this rivalry, or like a big reason why this rivalry has as much juice as it does, because just the whole border thing and the Twitter stuff and the burners, all that kind of stuff, and what we've seen. I mean, Nebraska thinks it's a rivalry considering what they did last year at the kickoff too, and kind of how heated and physical this game has been. But I still think it's a very important game for both programs. And why I say that is, especially, I think it is an important game for Iowa in terms of, okay, this is a program that, yes, there's not much to play for, but this game is an important game because you want momentum. You want momentum going into the offseason. You want momentum going into bowl prep, because then you are maybe a little bit more appealing to some of these guys that you're going after in the transfer portal here in the next couple of weeks. And, it's just a good like step. It's just good like vibes to have going into the offseason. And I mean, too, Iowa's just kind of dominated this rivalry the last couple of years, and it's kind of been that. But I still think from the precipice of, okay, it's a game that you really want to win. Like, you really want to win this game. It's important no matter what. I said it too, like, no matter what happens in that USC game, it's going to be important for like these next 3 games, potentially the Michigan State one, which Iowa was able to squeak away with that win. People are still going to get up for this game. Like, obviously it's not to the level that it really could have been, but people are still getting up for this game. And I still think it's very, very important game on the schedule for Iowa. And I think the coaches would tell you the same, but it just maybe doesn't have that juice that I think a lot of people are expecting, where potentially one team could ruin the other season and vice versa. But still, like, it's an important game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously somebody's going to say Nebraska to the college football playoff every single year, no matter how good or bad they were the prior year, because it gets the fan base hyped up. And one of these days they're going to be right, and that person's going to say they're a genius. But this go round, Iowa was definitely the team that had the best shot, and obviously came up short. But this game will always have a little something to it, just because how much the fan bases hate each other. Like, I grew up in North, and I've said this on other podcasts before, and I'll own it. I grew up in Northwest Iowa, and like I don't talk negatively about other programs, but I to this degree, but I hate Nebraska, and I'll say it. We're supposed to be unbiased, but being an Iowan, a tried and true Iowan my whole life, I can't stand them. So, and
you can't stand the fans, or you can't stand the program.
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
a little bit of both. It is quite a fan base on Twitter, but every fan base has their.
Yeah, that's why I don't engage. I do my best to just not engage, and like I'll read some of the stuff, but man, like it's not just Nebraska. Like, there's so many other fan bases, like Iowa State's like that. There's a couple of others too, but yeah, it's just one of those things you kind of just don't engage with. But you see it, but you don't engage with it.
Right. Anyway, So that adds a level of just being a native Iowan adds a level of intrigue to the game. And I'm sure it does for Nebraskans as well. There's always the fight over who has better corn and all that. But this one is also less interesting because Dylan Raiola's hurt, though now there's speculation, or I guess Nebraska's preparing for him to leave in the portal, according to Chris Hummer from our CBS Sports. But it is a little bit less interesting when you go to the TJ Lateef as opposed to Raiola, because Raiola is the Mahomes is cosplaying as Mahomes every single weekend, and we'll see if he comes back. But that's an added thing taken away from it. The fact that these teams aren't as good as they wanted to be is part of it. But like I said, and like you've said, still has something to it. But in terms of the matchup, that definitely changes things for the way Iowa and Nebraska both operate, having that backup quarterback in. And I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of Emmett Johnson on Friday. Whether it works much in the first half versus the second half, I mean, even if he's only averaging 2 or 3 yards per carry, they're going to keep going back to him because he's probably their best option for a big play.
Yeah, I mean, not only the best option for the big play, but kind of just the guy that they get the ball to constantly. I think he had 8 catches against Penn State, along with how many carries that he had. And he actually leads the team in receptions. I think he has 44 on the year, while the 2 other wide receivers behind him, Hunter and then Barney, have 42 on the year. So they're going to use him constantly and use him often. And I hate to say it because it feels like we say this for every Iowa game. Like, this game is going to be a running back battle. Like, who's going to have the run game that is most effective? Who is going to have the run game that, can make some of these big plays and potentially burst off a big play or two? Like, it could be, I'm not going to say it's going to be similar to last year, because I think now with these two teams, like especially this year, there's more of that gap that as opposed there was last year, because last year it kind of felt like it was a little more, hey, like, I know Iowa's a good team. I know Nebraska is a solid team, but Iowa also was down to what? Jackson Stratton, fourth string quarterback. Like, it was
The legend of
just,
Shaggy.
oh my gosh, it was just like a mess of a game. And you kind of think to yourself, no matter how far away these teams are, how close they are, like, it's going to be a tight game regardless. And that's the vibe I get going into this one. Although I think there's more potential for it to be a double digit game. I think, wasn't the spread at like 4.5 or something to open, and now it's at 6.5?
Something like that, yeah.
So I think, I mean, I really like, I would lean towards Iowa covering right now,
Mm-hmm.
just on the basis of, I think what Iowa does offensively is a little bit more worrisome for Nebraska. But then again, like TJ Lateef, backup quarterback, TJ Hall's status, like if he's not fully go, we see what could happen if Iowa plays down to the level of opponent like they did last week against Michigan State. And I know that was kind of senior day. Like, you're Mark Gronowski, you're feeling a little timid. Like, you obviously got some juice to you, and like, you it's a big game, and I guess you're in a spot where it's hard to, like, how do I want to say this? It's a very tough situation to be in when you're playing a team like that on senior day, because you kind of go into the mindset with like, you're playing not to lose,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you start to get down like that. But I think this game too, like, it's got to be one of those where you got to come out hard, you got to come out, tough and physical and whatnot, and you got to be able to establish yourself right off the bat, because that's kind of what teams have done in this rivalry game that have been, really resulting of the game. And I know there's been a number of comebacks too throughout the last couple of years. So, like, you have to remember that's a 4-quarter game, and you can't let up on the gas pedal, as we saw with Iowa at USC, and then, this past weekend against Michigan State too. But I think from a standpoint of, okay, what Iowa does offensively works well to what Nebraska does not do well defensively, and that's running the football. And the Nebraska's defensive line is not that great. The linebackers are okay. They got some pretty good tacklers there. The secondary is okay, but they're not, fantastic. But what from Iowa's performance last week against Michigan State makes us think, okay, this team can, expose those weaknesses. I mean, we've seen it throughout times this season, but it's still kind of an interesting interesting scenario because Nebraska, I feel like, is just kind of going to do whatever they can to, put whoever in the box and, try to stop the run. But that's not always the best case, especially with Iowa's offensive line and, some of the tackling issues I feel like Nebraska has had and some of the, lack of playmakers maybe they have in space.
If we're going to look at that and say, okay, they couldn't establish the run maybe consistently last week. They couldn't do much, period, against Michigan State until the final 2 minutes. I think what we're going to talk about, and it's been a short week. It'll be a short week with 3 offensive lineman starters who are banged up in Bo Stevens, Cade Pieper, and Jennings Dunker. And Logan Jones, for that matter, left the game for, I think, a series last week for an ankle. I mean, he's fine now. He's going to play, and the other 3 were listed on the depth chart too. But that's I guess a concern. I mean, and the thing is too, if one of them has to head to the sideline or whatever, you're more confident in this second string of offensive linemen than you've been in multiple years at Iowa. So that's a positive. I'm going to give folks a preview of 3 focal points, that piece that I put out every week. That's free on Hawkeye Insider, which, by the way, we have a ton of VIP content right now. And we always have a ton of VIP content at Hawkeye Insider from Sean, David, and myself. We got a Black Friday sale going on right now, 75% off. That is the biggest discount that we have throughout the year. You get your full first year annual subscription, 75% off at Hawkeye Insider. So do that. Sean's got incredible men's basketball analysis content right now. Transfer portal right around the corner. That's going to be the busy time of year. Sean and I, holidays are busy for us when we got to cover games and stuff, but transfer portal, it's a whole nother level. So you got to sign up and join us today. You can find that link on both of our Twitters and in this article I'm referencing that'll be posted at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. So in my 3 focal point article, one of my focal points is expose Nebraska's run defense. I've got several stats, but I'm going to give you, I think the top one here is over their last 5 games, the Huskers and defensive coordinator John Butler have allowed an average of 189.6 per game, yards per game, including 186 to Minnesota, 202 to USC, 231 to Penn State. In that same stretch of games, their defense has allowed 5.3 yards per carry against Minnesota, 5.73 yards per carry against Northwestern, and 5.3 yards per carry against USC. In those games, each of Darius Taylor, Jaden Mayava, King Miller, Katron Allen, and Nicholas Singleton each averaged at least 5.6 yards per carry. So Iowa should be able to run the ball. Should is the emphasis. It's going to be cold. It might be snowy, so that's maybe advantage Iowa in that front. But the thing is, when it comes to a game like this where you're facing a weak rushing defense that is ranked, let me see here. They rank 93rd in the country in rushing defense, 167.5 yards per carry or yards per game that they allow. I need to edit that. That is advantage Iowa for a lot of reasons. Offensive line, Kamari Moulton, Mark Gronowski, but you have 5 running backs that you can play. You have Caden Weegan. And obviously there's read options. There's Gronowski can take it himself. Kamari Moulton has been really, really good. He's averaging 5 yards a carry this year. And he still hasn't broken 100 yards. So if there's a time to do it, it's Nebraska. He did against Penn State and then got tackled in the backfield for like a loss of 8 on one play. So he ended up with like 98 or 99 yards. So if there is an advantage here, it's what you've just referenced. It's the rush defense that Nebraska has that isn't particularly good and has gotten worse as the year has progressed.
Yeah, I mean, and they've struggled against some talented teams too. I mean, USC before kind of the injuries that they had, and then Michigan's one of the better rushing offenses in the Big Ten, so it makes sense. But this is also where having a guy like Mark Gronowski comes in, because it's not just going to be Moulton who's running the ball at the gut and kind of bouncing off tacklers and whatnot. You have a quarterback that can move a little bit, and a quarterback can be able to extend plays and make things happen. Now, this isn't. I think the passing game. I mean, it feels like every time we talk about Iowa too, we kind of have like the same keys for every game, which is
It
kind of
totally
a
does. It
yeah,
totally does. Focal points is so difficult.
yeah. To be creative with it, at least with like basketball, like it's like you can be a little bit more creative with stuff. But
Mhm.
um, with Iowa football, it's kind of just like, well, run the football well, don't turn the ball over, tackle defensively. I mean, I guess tackling's kind of been more of a bigger thing, and that's where it's gonna be tough with this defense too, because yeah, I thought Michigan State was a not Michigan State would have had a much easier time or a much better time moving the football against Iowa had Aiden Childs been in the game. Like that would have been, I think we're talking about a completely different game if that was the case. Because yes, Michigan State got what it wanted at times moving the football, but Childs would have been a much tougher matchup, I think, for this group or for this Iowa team as we saw last year. I don't really like. I haven't seen too much of Latif. I know he's like an okay athlete.
Yeah.
He can move around a bit, so I think that's going to maybe give Iowa some issues. But he's not. I don't know if he's of the Childs, mold.
He's not as
But
good of a passer, probably.
no, he did have that good game against Minnesota. Um, but outside of that, like in his limited starts, like, he was not very good against Penn State last week. But also, Penn State might be the worst or the best whatever 3-6 or whatever their record is team ever, just from a talent perspective. But I'm interested to see how kind of this Iowa passing game goes, because we saw how they were able to kind of turn it on later in the game. If you can get that passing game consistently, which has been a struggle this season for sure, but if you can if you can kind of make it a 4-quarter performance and whatnot, like that kind of puts you over the top of like, hey, this could be a 25, 20, like 30-point game. I don't want to say that big, but I think it could like get to that if you can run the ball really effectively too. But then again, like we talk about this game and we say all these things, but this game is just so weird in terms of stuff that happens, whether that's special teams. And let's not forget, Nebraska's a decent special teams unit this year. And what is one of Iowa's most inconsistent parts of their team? Special teams, outside of Caden Weechin,
Mhm.
except for the Iowa State game. So it's that kind of gives me a little bit of pause going into this matchup in terms of how they can kind of adjust to that, or prevent some of those plays that could really turn the course of the game.
Latif had a good game against UCLA. Um,
That's who it was.
complete,
Sorry, not
yeah,
Minnesota.
no, you're good. Completed 13 of 15 passes for 3 touchdowns.
Wait,
And
yeah, what am I thinking? Minnesota was
I
the
don't
game
know.
where Rayola got sacked 9
Yeah,
times.
right. I don't know.
It's been a
Uh,
long week.
all right. Anyway, 13 of 15, 3 touchdown passes, and he has not thrown an interception yet, which is impressive. 3 rushing touchdowns this season. He had a rushing touchdown against Penn State, but yeah, Penn State was a really rough game for him. 21 of 37 for 187 yards, which yeah, you'd look back at that. I've just had Deacon Hill on the mind because of how bad that game was this last week for Mark Gronowski. And 21 of 37 for Deacon Hill would have been much worse than 187 yards and no interceptions. So we'll move on from that. It's not 2023 anymore. But Latif, like you mentioned, has some mobility. He is still a true freshman, which that like just hearing that, it sounds like Max Llewellyn and Ethan Hurkett are probably licking their chops a little bit for their last regular season game at Iowa. Um,
And they both had some pretty big moments against Nebraska too in the past.
exactly. So I'm looking at Llewellyn in particular to potentially make another big play. Last year was nuts, nuts. I mean, the year prior was crazy too. I mean, again, I'm going to refer to three focal points here and just read off some of the crazy things that have happened in the last 10 years, with Iowa winning the last 6 in Lincoln. By the way, I don't know if you knew that. The last time Nebraska beat Iowa in Lincoln, it was 2011. Okay, 2018, Iowa blew a 4th-quarter 15-point lead with before Miguel Racinos drilled 41-yard field goal as time expired for the 31-28 win. 2019, Keith Duncan made a 48-yarder with 1 second left, turning to blow kisses to the Nebraska sideline. 2021, Iowa mounted a 22-0 run before the third and fourth quarter, between the third and fourth quarter, golly, to rally back and win, securing the Big Ten West title. 2022, the only time Nebraska has beaten Iowa in the last 10 years. Cornhuskers mounted a 24-0 lead, thanks to an early injury to Cooper DeJean. Hawkeyes attempted to mount a second-half comeback, but fell short 24-17. 2023, exchange of interceptions in the final minute between Deacon Hill and Chubba Purdy. And then 2024, the Max Llewellyn strip sack. But even counting that, Jackson Stratton started that game. I was down to their, was it fifth string? Because it was Sully, Cade, Marco, and was it Jackson? Was it fourth? Because Rezar.
Yeah, he was fourth because Rezar was a wide receiver at that point.
Yeah. And then he throws the swing pass to Caleb Johnson, who makes one of the greatest plays in Iowa football history.
Yeah.
That game was like, Dave and I have a running joke with Maddie, the new writer from the Gazette, where she says, this game is crazy. Like, you have no idea. Haven't been on the beat for a few years, in 2023 in particular. But this, we say it because it's true. We don't say it because it's a narrative or anything. This game always ends up being crazy, no matter how good these teams are. Just waiting for the end of the game for Drew Stevens to hit a game-winning field goal, basically.
Imagine if TJ Hall, because he was the one that kind of got torn up against Palmer. Imagine if TJ Hall comes back and just has like the ultimate legacy game.
Full circle moment, and solidifies his spot as one of the top corners. And I don't know if he'll be a top corner in the draft. I haven't really paid attention to that type of.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, from a perspective of like the amount of questions that we had coming into this year about the corner position, and I know there's still been some kind of inconsistencies here and there, but TJ Hall has probably had one of the biggest steps that I think, a corner has had in quite some time for. I mean, Jamari Harris would probably be one, considering just how good he was last year before he ended up kind of, out for the rest of the year. But I mean, from a perspective of kind of just making that jump, like he's probably one of those guys that you're like, dang, like he just really boosted his stock, and doing it like this too, like would just be an awesome scenario for him, an awesome situation for him, because I think a lot of people really counted him out kind of after that game against Nebraska a couple years ago, where I mean Iowa almost had a chance to win that game too. Like they were still down. Like I think they had a drive, like they were down by 7, but it was one of those scenarios where you're kind of just like, this offense is just not going to do anything.
I think it was Padilla at quarterback at the time too.
Didn't they go Padilla and then Petrus?
Did they?
Or did Petrus get hurt? I can't remember. I know people in the comments are going to grill us for like first my thinking that game was against Nebraska or that Nebraska game was against Minnesota where Latif had 3 touchdowns, but and then now where we just don't remember certain stuff.
Well, I wasn't on the beat in 2022, so they're going to.
Yeah, I imagine you still. Okay, yeah. So you watched the game, I imagine, but you weren't as like in the mud with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. That was the corn stalks and sports talk days, so had to pay attention at least a little bit. I know that was Luke Lachey's last touchdown at Iowa, wasn't it?
2021?
22.
Oh, 22. I don't know.
I think it was, because I don't think he caught one in 23 because he got hurt so early.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. You ready to make a pick or anything like that? We got 5 minutes left to fill for this pod, and we're going to wait. By the way, we're going to wait to talk about basketball next week. Obviously, Iowa plays Grand Canyon last night. Bennett Sturts was freaking awesome.
Ole Miss last night, Grand Canyon tonight.
Golly. Bennett Sturts was awesome last night against Ole Miss. And Cooper Koch, I thought, was really good. But again, we'll talk more about that next week during the window that Iowa has off for football, plus signing day next week. So tons of other stuff to be talking about. But anyway, are you ready to make a prediction? What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I think Iowa's going to cover. I have Iowa 20-10. I just think, like I said earlier, I think some of the things that Iowa does really well is going to be able to frustrate Nebraska. But then again, one of the things that gives me pause is I think Nebraska is more, not as bound to make as many mistakes as maybe they have in the last couple of years, and especially on special teams too, because it always feels like Iowa's prone to getting, that one or two extra plays on special teams that really boost things in their direction. So I'm going to go with Iowa. Like I said, to cover, and I think it's 20-10. But man, like I could see a scenario where this game goes to overtime, or like someone kicks the game-winning field goal. Like it's just one of those games where one of those rivalries where one team needs to really like be the aggressor, like be the one that's going to go like over the top. Like I think one of the things with Iowa State, that I think Iowa State fans have kind of complained about is it feels like Matt Campbell kind of tries to play Kirk's game a little bit when they play each other. I don't know if that's really Rule's thing, but I do think there is some truth to that in terms of, but I also think it's the Iowa defense too, and like just the way that they're able to prevent plays and whatnot. But I also think having a guy like Latif back there definitely changes the dynamic of this game. But if I was not able to get him down or get pressure on him and bring him down for sacks or even bring down Johnson, like I could see a scenario where it's like last week against Michigan State a little bit. If the offense isn't clicking too.
Yeah. I'm going to put some pressure on you for this too before I make my pick. Since we're more or less all of the same mindset that somebody has to make a play at the end of the game for Iowa. Usually it's defensively. Who makes that play and how do they do it?
Why not a TJ Hall interception if he's healthy?
6 or just interception?
I think just an interception. Like I think Nebraska, I do have Iowa winning by 10, but if you had to like press me now, like Iowa's up by 7, TJ Hall gets a pick to, seal the deal when Nebraska's trying to drive.
Okay.
But who knows? Maybe it could be a strip sack again for the second, or that was a Herkett interception. Was 2023, and then the strip sack was Llewellyn. So maybe it's a guy like, I don't know, Brian Allen, Aaron Graves. Like Aaron Graves potentially has his kid like on the way like soon too.
Yeah.
Like how cool of a moment would that be?
I will share this memory from 23 as well. As Dave and I were both there when I was working for the other place, and I vividly remember going down there. I think it was right after Deacon threw the pick, the first interception, and Dave goes, "Nobody wants to win this game. Nobody wants to win this game." And of course, Marshall Meter solidified his place in Iowa
Marshall
history.
Meter. That's gonna be such a good trivia question. Like in 5 years, 5-10 years.
I caught him walking off the field afterwards, and I said, "Marshall, how does it feel?" And he goes, "It's great to be a Hawkeye." And then, of course, he goes to the podium after the game too. And just a crazy turn of events for a walk-on transfer from Central Michigan,
who had kicked a field goal like all year. Was it like one field goal?
That was the only one he kicked, if I remember right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. With Drew struggling, he missed 2 field goals of like, I think 38 and like 26 yards in that game.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and Brian was talking on the sideline. Apparently, I think people could see it during the game. Is like he was not happy after one of those missed field goals. So, but it's like, bro, if there's anybody that should shut up. But anyway, I'm gonna roll with Iowa as well. I think this is a Gronowski like takeover game. Kamari takeover game. Kamari finally breaks 100. Kamari finally breaks off a big run one way or another. And maybe Gronowski throws another touchdown pass because he's got a streak now. He's done that 2 games in a row.
2, 3. I think it's 2. That could be wrong.
USC, Nebraska. How did they score against Oregon? He had that rushing touchdown.
Yeah, did he throw a?
Wow. We are really good at our job, Sean.
Dude, you brought it up, so you should know.
I'll look it up, but anyway, that would be at least 3 touchdown passes in a row. So Iowa, Mark Gronowski would be streaking in that case. I think the snow likelihood has gone away since I tweeted the screenshot of the weather app.
That's probably because you need a new weather app, dude.
Is Apple's that known for being that bad? Or
I
what?
use AccuWeather. Like I feel like AccuWeather is my best thing, but also I'm getting like a ton of ads on there too. So some other people have different recommendations.
Okay, take your word for it. Now I'm pulling up the Iowa-Oregon box score here, and Mark Gronowski did throw a touchdown pass. So he threw it to DJ Vonamy. It was that
that's
leak
right.
out. Yeah.
Yep.
So he's got 3 already. It would be 4 against right? I don't think he threw one before that. Okay, I'm not going to look that up. You guys can look it up yourself. But yeah, so I do think Iowa's going to win. I'm going to put it at 24-13 because I think Drew gets a field goal. And again, Mark probably throws for a touchdown, rushes for a touchdown, and then Kamari gets one as well, or Xavier Williams, one of the two. I am just like Kamari has to do it eventually, right? Whether it's Nebraska or the bowl game or something. He's just been right there all year. So we'll see how that transpires. But if it does come down to that single possession, because we can feel like it's going to be a double-digit game, but there are absolutely 0 guarantees in this rivalry. If there was to be a guarantee, I would put it at that it comes down to a final play. But I'm going to give that edge to Cohen Entringer. Hasn't had a pick all year. Possibly moving on to the NFL. He hasn't decided yet, but that would be really something for him to, if he does decide to solidify the end of his career and to move on. But that'll do it for us today. Sean Bock, Eliot, Clough, previewing the Iowa-Nebraska game this Friday. Stay locked in with us at Hawkeye Insider because we still have that 75% off going on right now. Sign up at the link on our website, on either of our Twitters. You are going to get some incredible content for very, very cheap. So we can only do it for so long. We want you there with us. Transfer portal, recruiting, men's basketball, women's basketball, football. It's going to be a crazy couple months. There's nowhere else you're going to be getting the content that we provide. So sign up today at Hawkeye Insider and join myself, Sean, and David Eichholt for all of that content. For now, I am Eliot Clough. He is Sean Bock. We will see you next time.